So, good evening, everyone. I just started now. So, I hope every one of you are able to listen me as I just started just now only. And if we just have a small and quick recap what we have done yesterday, then I must tell that we completed Aphorism 15. We are on the voyage of understanding the concept of usage of vital force in health, death, disease, cure. So we completed this dynamic concept of health. We learned what we should understand as death, and we are into the process of understanding further regarding the dynamic concept of disease. And I hope all of you are able to listen me. Any issues, write me in the chat. Then we just understood yesterday that why the dynamic concept of disease, where we say that derangement first is in the vital force, cannot be watched with the senses, but since this derangement of the vital force simultaneously translate into the organism in the material body in the form of signs and symptoms, which is perceivable by our senses. So, what we perceive by our senses is actually we are not only simply perceiving the signs and symptoms of the disease, but at the same time we are perceiving the derangement of the vital force. This is not at all in any way different. They are one and the same thing. This was very well explained in Aphorism 15, where he says that the living organism is a unity of two opposites, that is, the immaterial vital force and the material body. When these two are together in one unit, means it is a complete whole of two different uh, opposite type of entities. Hence, it is called the human being, and it is that which is the living organism. I don't know you are able to hear me or not. I'm not getting. Okay, fine. Good enough. So I think Aditi, your video is working. You wrote that your video got paused. Okay, good enough. So this is what we completed yesterday. Now, the point which we are going to discuss is related to the understanding of uh, dynamic concept of cure. When you will come to know the dynamic concept of the cure, you will find a consistency between the understanding amongst the all three, or you can say all four concepts. What are those? Concept of health, concept of death, concept of illness, concept of cure. All are dependent on the dynamicity. Health is a uh, dynamic concept wherein this dynamic vital force keep the body in harmony. Death is the one where it is a dynamic state, and this material body now is now break off that connect between the uh, immaterial, dynamic immaterial vital force and the material body. Somewhere in the invisible interior, they get connected. How and why we do not know, and not really our subject, right? But they get somewhere connected in the interior, maybe at the time of zygote formation only. There are many books on this connection pertaining to the subject of obstetrics. I spoke to some of the obstetricians, and they said, yes, we are believing in all this, and that kind of connection occurs in a particular time in the womb. So I did not go much into that subject. We can find out certain books and know about it. I know this much only. Then, when this connect got disconnected, and the material body and the immaterial vital force, they get aparted, and this division is called death. This material body is no more animated with the vital force now on. So it is called death. And then we understood regarding the what is dynamicity, what is dynamic power. It is that when there are certain powers work together or against each other, and it is in a flow constantly going on. This is a dynamicity. It works to understand the dynamic concept of disease, where we must really understood this. There are some uh, powers. These powers are in the environment. These powers are with the microorganisms. And whenever our vitality power, our defense mechanism, which is one of the functions of the vital force, if it gets weakened sometime, we become host. That means we open the doors, and the inimical forces of the environment and the organisms and our hostness, they work in such a dynamic fashion that we get disease. And if this hostness is not there, even if all the other two, they are trying to make us sick, we are not getting. But sometimes environment is so harsh, it pushes our immunity in such a fashion, as it is written in one aphorism, that it pushes the vital force to such an extent, the illness gets in, means that it pushes the vital force, the harmony gets in disharmony. That is what happens, because maybe because of the environment, maybe because of the too much of virulent power of the organism, microorganism, or maybe too much of hostness of ours. So it is this combination, somewhere the disease gets in. So you cannot really all the time work out all these things in a patient. But we are very sure that whatever is happening with us, it is in a dynamic way, which is somehow, first of all, the very first step is the derangement of the vital force. And simultaneously, this derangement translates into the sign and symptoms, which is perceivable. The derangement of the vital force is not perceivable, so far not perceivable. And once you understand this derangement of the vital force with the sign and symptoms, you understand the disease. And with one indicated medicine, when these signs and symptoms go away, simultaneously it is understood that it is not that symptoms are going away, hence the correction of the vital force occurring. No, it is the first of all correction in the derangement of the vital force, which is translating into the removal of the symptoms. This is what is the topic for today. We are going to study in aphorism 16. So before starting aphorism 16, I have a few things to tell every one of you. Though I am not intending to tell you that you do not know the basic grammatical issues of the English, but then since if you see the whole aphorism, quite a long aphorism, almost such a long aphorism, almost a one sentence. So it is quite obvious you and me understand this one complex sentence. This is called in English as complex sentence. And the way this sentence is written, how to really understand that? The right way of understanding is that we should be, first of all, the sentence, complex sentence means a sentence with lot many layers, quite a layered sentence. We are to iron it. How to do it? Simplify in a very, very small, simple sentences. We convert them in simple sentences. But then we should know how in English we create complex sentence, and what is the purpose of creating this complex sentence. Why not to simply write in a simple sentences? So far as my understanding goes, we should go a little bit into the understanding of the English grammar, and then we will be able to understand the purpose of writing such complex sentences. But I find the when you write things in a simple sentence, sometimes what happens, you pick and choose the sentences as per your need, and you try to say this much is needed, rest is not required. Here, the whole book from cover to cover is so much connected, you cannot really do so to simply take out some of the sentences for your purpose and leave the rest. This is not possible. You can understand that how and why we started the whole thing right from the ground plan of the Ognon, how we started reading the title page, the title and everything, going into every kind of preface. Then we are reading all the author's preface and all the introduction, everything. And then if you see the aphorism 1 onwards, we are reaching, and today we are going to learn aphorism 16. Then all the places, the one very word is a buzzing word in all the aphorisms, say all the sentences, directly or indirectly, is the cure. The whole purpose is that very practical purpose at the bedside, in the OPD, to find out ways and means and the methods and that methodology to achieve cure in a given case. So writing a complex sentence is one, maybe the idea that you cannot pick and choose. And moreover, this was the way of writing those days. Nowadays, it is rather an idea to write down in a simple sentences. And because we are more in the use of simple sentences, we call this kind of writings as the Old English. But then this has a meaning. You cannot pick and choose something and leave something. Because sentence even is not complete. Then while creating such kind of complex sentences, you know, what is a clause? We call in English one sentence, one simple sentence, which is having one noun and one verb and has got conveying one very simple meaning is a clause. Here we find the whole complex sentence is connected with many clauses. Means many sentences, it is conveying so many of the meanings. And moreover, if you see why to write in this fashion, that all the descriptions, all that processes which is Hahnemann trying to explain to us, they are in this fashion only, continuous and simultaneous. So getting that feeling, it needs this kind of sentences in a complex format. The very straight away we get the feeling that after reading the whole sentence, that everything what is happening is something very much connected, simultaneous, and at the same time happenings. If you put some sentences separately in a simple way, we may take a sense that it is not a continuous process. This process is a continuous process. It is the expression of the dynamicity, writing like this. Writing in the complex sentences is one very, very important expression of showing, expressing, getting aware about the dynamicity. You cannot, what is that dynamicity? The flow. How can you express the flow in your writings? This is the only way. Either you write in poetry, when you write poems, it has got a flow. Or you write in this fashion. That may be the right meaning of aphorisms also, which are in a constant connection with each other like a poetry. But then if you write things in this way, you have to connect them for the sake of maintaining the dynamicity. But then if we need to understand, after really understanding this point, how do they create, how, if suppose if we are going to learn English, then we should understand how you are going to create complex sentences. There are very simple ways. Start using conjunctions, start using adverbs, start using pronouns. So there are in this whole one sentence, which is Aphorism 16, you will find so many of conjunctions, or you can very simply say you will find so many of subordinate clauses. Sentences now merged with so many of subordinate clauses. If you want to add some subordinate clause in the one clause, it requires a conjunction. That is how it is there. Now, see your book, see the aphorism. I just read and I will mention a few of the words that you will understand. Either this word is a maybe an adverb, maybe some conjunction, maybe some noun. I'm not going into each word, what is what. I'm just saying, just mark these words. They are having some connections. What are those? Our vital force. Now it is using a word as after the comma. Our vital force as a spirit like dynamics. Here he tried again reminding us regarding the vital force, that reminding us saying, mind it, vital force, I mean spirit like dynamics. It is some a flowing power. Cannot be attacked and affected by injurious influences on the healthy organism caused by the external inimical forces. That again another word came, that you can just underline it or mark it with some marker. That that means it is going to explain us something further, that disturb the harmonious play of life. When a word comes otherwise, mark it otherwise, it is going to give some more details. Otherwise then, in a spirit like dynamic way. Here, after this dynamic way, there is a comma. You just put one slash, because it is one meaning, it is one main concept he conveyed to us up to here. So, what is that meaning? Now, I read this much portion again with the meaning of it. Our vital force, which is like a spirit like dynamics, our vital force cannot be attacked and affected by injurious influences on a healthy organism caused by external inimical forces. How our vital force will get injury, will get influences, injurious influences, only by external inimical forces. What does it do? That disturb the harmonious play of the life. Such kind of injurious forces, they have a capacity to disturb our harmony, to put us to disharmony. Otherwise, then, in a spirit dynamic like way, they disturb our life, harmony of life, only in one way, that is the dynamic way, spirit like dynamic way. Just read this again. Our vital force as a spirit like dynamism cannot be attacked and affected by injurious influences on the healthy organism caused by external inimical forces that disturb the harmonious play of life, otherwise than in a spirit like way. If we simply say that our, since everything is dynamic, our life is very much dynamic because of the dynamic force, vital force. The only way we can be sick, that all those injurious forces should first put us to the disharmony in a very spirit like dynamic way. We get dynamic diseases by the dynamic way. This can be one very simple sentence, but here it is not. It is just given in a very negative format. It cannot be affecting the organism otherwise than the dynamic way. This is how it has been said. Why? Because the whole understanding those days was more towards the materialistic way. You can say we can change it now. Where is the difficulty? Okay, we can. But then, don't you even see now everything is still tilted towards the dynamic and towards the materialistic understanding of the disease? Or do you find any or much understanding of the disease towards the dynamic concept, even it is not that way. So you can really understand this. That is the reason to break off that very thought, that very impression that diseases are materialistic. So he wrote in this fashion, since you understand diseases are of materialistic origin, but then it is not, it is that very understanding to make us understand that stop becoming materialistic in respect of understanding the diseases. It is not. I hope you are able to understand the point why he is writing in this fashion. Going further, again a word comes and within market, and in like manner, all such morbid derangements means diseases cannot be removed from it by the physician in any other way than by the spirit like, dynamic, virtual, alternative powers of the serviceable medicines acting upon our spirit like vital force. So, one first sentence, what I told you up to the dynamic way, that diseases are dynamic. This we learned. But then he has to start with that point, since diseases are dynamic. Removal of them can be that way only. You can remove the dynamic diseases by some dynamic way. And what is that some way? The way is those alternative powers, those alternative powers of the serviceable medicines. What do you mean by serviceable powers, alternative powers? Alternative power means, if you go in the simple meaning of the alternative, it means interchange. It's not like this. Alternative here means which are all, which are having a capacity to alter your health. Alternative energies means, alternative powers means those powers which has a capacity to alter the health, and those powers of the serviceable medicines, those powers, those powerful medicines which has a capacity to alter your health. Out of that, the indicated one, the serviceable one, the indicated one is going to remove this disease, but then it has to be dynamic only, no other way. Now, we can understand how energies will communicate with each other. Energies have got their own domains. So, in their domain, those energies, they actually interact with each other. So, if we are going to understand this dynamic concept of the disease, then we are to be very sure that if diseases are dynamic, it is only requiring the dynamic medicines only. Now, what my understanding is, all those medicinal substances, even if used in the other school, the old school or nowadays the Western medicine, and they denote the medicine with some number that is about the materialistic doses of those medicines, that XYZ 200 mg or whatever. All medicines, whatever it may be, they are having dynamic powers. It's not that they don't have dynamic power. But then the point is, we do not know. We do not know XYZ antibiotic of 650 mg, what exactly the dynamic power of it. How do we know? We will be only knowing it by proving out proving them on some healthy human beings. But then we know a little bit of dynamic power of these medicines if we check up with the side effects records of that particular XYZ medicine. What is those side effects of one such XYZ medicine? The side effects are those rudiments of the uh, forced proving on the sick human beings. They are showing the side effects. It is that dynamic power of the XYZ medicine. So, what I mean to say is, you are to be aware. It should be on record with you that it has got this dynamic power. Exactly the way we know about our pulsatilla, about our aconite, about our lycopodium, about our so many such medicines. If we know these medicines by their dynamic powers, means we are knowing exactly how this particular medicine is affecting the vital force. Affected the vital force first, then this affection of the vital force due to the medicine simultaneously expressed in the signs and symptoms. Those are the proven records we maintain in our Materia Medica. But the other school medicines are not known by this way. They are known by some other ways. They know them just by the internal operations of the vital force. Those processes which are really not known so well. Those processes which may differ person to person. We try to know them first on the animals. They have a quite a big procedure. They know things by the effects of those medicines in the internal processes of the vital force in the animals first, and after trying to translate that half knowledge of the animals on the human beings, then they call it clinical trials. And in those clinical trials, they find out the efficacy by their own methodologies. After knowing the efficacies, they get the permission to use that XYZ medicine as a useful, treatable medicine for particular condition. And then after a prolonged use, they come to know its side effects. Then they start working on reducing the side effects, and they call it scientific. I don't know how. And they are pushing us towards the same procedures in the name of science and scientific methodology. This is the irony of the situation. Our way is that we are knowing about the alternative power, means the altering power of the medicine. This altering power is known with a very, very small doses of that medicine on a healthy human being. It is not going to in any way harm those healthy human beings. In the aphorisms to come, Henman has told us that doing proving means how it is going to be helpful, useful to the provers. We will come to those aphorisms. So, understanding here is, he says that it is that altering power of the medicine which is first of all which is actually going to influence dynamically first of all the vital force. When that correction occurs, it translates into the healthy sign and symptoms, means the removal of the sick sign and symptoms. Very simple understanding we have to keep in mind that in the process of the cure, the first point to keep in the mind is that if you understand that process of the illness is dynamic, it requires dynamic medicines because the energies talk with each other in a given domain only. They cannot be simply diverting the domain here and there and interact. This is not possible. So, simple understanding is that diseases are dynamic. If we want to remove those dynamic diseases, we need alike means the similar dynamic medicinal powers. When we say powers means that those substances which has a capacity to alter the health of the human being. And we should know that alteration in a very specific form means the exact sign and symptoms. When you choose on the basis of those sign and symptoms, it is going to alleviate by the process of dynamicity. It is a process of dynamicity. The dynamic medicines are going to influence the dynamic vital force. It is getting again recovered from deranged to arrangement, from the derangement to the arrangement, and this arrangement immediately express outside because that uh, it's a simultaneous process, and immediately you will notice that you start feeling healthy means those altered symptoms are lost. So this is the second meaning here he wanted to convey to us. Then going further, which receives them through the medium of sentient faculty of the nerves everywhere present in the organism. This is next point he's going to talk to us. Now, in this point, what Hahnemann is going to teach us is all right, then how our dynamic medicine reaching to the vital force. Though vital force is present everywhere, but then we are going with the materialistic body. So he says in this part of the sentence that it is the nervous system, and in the nervous system, it is the sensory nervous system, which is basically the interface. Vital force is connected with the rest of the body. In that, the interface is nervous system. If we want to connect our medicine to the vital force, what should be the interface? Hahnemann says it is the sensory nerves present everywhere in the body. Through those sensory nerves, it reaches to the vital force, and vital force then getting arranged from the deranged, and that information also reaching to the rest of the body by the nervous system. It is present everywhere. You see, if you go into the pharmacology of the old school, pharmacology of the Western medicine, you will come to know that their medicine reaching to different part through the blood. What is happening? Medicine ingested or injected, it is ingested going into the blood and going in the liver. In the liver some metabolism process takes place where some medicines are converting into the actual acting medicines. In their process they call it pro drug going to the liver through the blood, ingestion to the blood or directly by injectables to the blood and going in the liver. In the liver, in the process of metabolism of that drug, it develops as a active drug. Earlier, it was not active drug. There are certain medicines in allopathy. If you read that pharmacology, you will come to know. And then it is going to the organs and affecting. They call it going to the target organ and affecting. But my point is, there are certain areas where there is no blood supply. Just immediately, quickly remind yourself what are those places where no such blood supply. Immediately. If you really know, write me in the chat. What are those areas in the body where there is no such direct blood supply? Just remind me one or two locations, one or two anatomical locations where no direct blood supply. So you got my point that where there are no blood supply occasions, those medicines cannot reach. It becomes difficult to really help those parts. For example, cornea of the eye, it is not having a direct blood supply. Similarly, so many areas of our joints, especially the tendons, and maybe many more locations. For example, nails don't have direct blood supply. Like, for example, our hair, no direct blood supply. There are certain other means they get the nutrition of. Hence, when a question comes about the joint problem, and they need to give some steroid like medicines to control the conditions, what do? They directly inject their steroid like drug into the joint, because the reason they cannot give it, that even if they can give, it will not reach to the target organ. But this is not a problem with us. Nerves are everywhere. Everywhere nerves are there. Only point is, by your sensory nerves, your dynamic energy is reaching to the vital force, and then it is accordingly getting rearranged, and finally it is the vital force which is commanding how to do the rest of the job. So if we just go in the name of, in the understanding of the Western school pharmacology, we always give the medicine in their terminology. Our all drugs are pro drug. They all are pro drug when they influence through the sensory nervous system the vital force. The vital force only then do something. What all vital force can does, it can do like some production of the neurotransmitters, or maybe many other things. Now it is a very vast field to understand. It might produce cytokines. Cytokine is a particular protein which has a capacity to produce the cascade reactions of the immunological bodies, all those C4, CD4 and everything. So it has got so many different processes, and some we know, some we do not know. We never bothered to know exactly what is happening inside the operations of the vital force. Because Master said, going into all that is such a complex process. It is better to learn the complex sentence than a complex process of the internal operations of the vital force, because understanding this complex sentence is going to teach us the methodology of curing a person. But going into learning of the internal complex process of the operations of the vital force, we cannot learn, because what I feel that the internal vital processes of all the human beings, they differ in a slight way. They differ because the internal operations of the vital force differ person to person. Even in one family, you might find certain kind of similarities, but then even in them, in one family, each person has got some difference in the internal operations of the vital force. It is impossible a work. What we understand as the internal processes, they are the average processes. They are the most probable processes. And whatever it is reaching up to a dead end. When I say dead end, I mean it is not showing the light to us to reach to the path of cure. It is not reaching to the cure, it is not leading us to reach to the path of the cure. But then knowing things from the symptoms, it leads us to the path of the cure. This is the difference. So ultimately, what we understood is that the process is through the sentient faculty of the nerve. Sentient faculty of the nerve means those sensory nerves. That is why we learn in the practical part how can we administer the medicine. It may be through the tongue, means ingestion. It can be through the nose, that means olfaction. Applying in the nails of the finger where there are so many sentient nerves, means the sensory nerves. And we can rub it on the body if in certain conditions, because there are also sensory nerves. So we understood diseases are dynamic. Such dynamic diseases can only be removed by the dynamic medicines. How do they communicate? Through the sensory nerves. Next. So that again, those I'm telling you the words which are like some verb or conjunction, they create subordinate clause, another subordinate clause, so that it is only by the dynamic action, so that it is only by the dynamic action on the vital force that remedies are able to reestablish and do actually reestablish health and vital harmony. And this way, this interface, ultimately activity of the indicated medicine, actually what it does do in their dynamic action, it re-establish, and then he re-emphasize and do actually establish. He is just re-emphasizing to say that I'm not simply saying re-establish. Actually, they do re-establish health and vital harmony. So this is how health is achieved. This is another part he is telling us. Then thereafter, another one more part. After the changes in the health of the patient, cognizable by our senses, have revealed the disease to the carefully observing and investigating physician as fully as was requisite in order to enable him to cure. And now he's remind us further that when this whole operation takes place, at the final outcome, what is the final outcome? The final outcome is this, what I read, that now it is cognizable to accurately observing physician that all those alterations have gone, and you can now just see all those signs and symptoms which should be there in a healthy person. And this only the part which is necessary, requisite. When you fill a form, you find these are the requisite areas you have to fill. Requisite means necessary. This is the only requisite necessary information this Almighty give it to us to know, instead of going into too much of internal operations. Just see, I read it again. After the changes in the health of the patient, cognizable by our senses, the totality of the symptom, have revealed the disease to the carefully observing and investigating physician as fully as was requisite in order to enable him to cure it. So, simply know the disease by its totality of symptoms, because this is only cognizable by senses. And this totality, it goes away, which is cognizable by our senses, and we come to know that our patient from outside as well as inside has been properly cured. No such other kind of thinking and thought. So ultimately, we all should understand this point, that whatever we are doing with our patients, we need to be very, very careful that the whole process we are doing is a dynamic process. And all those dynamic processes, you must be very careful that any of the activity, if you're trying to disturb any of the activity, maybe the whole process derailed. So understanding this dynamic process put all of us, all the homeopathic physicians, to a very, very responsible position, that we are dealing with the energy medicine. We are dealing with the human being, which is another energy. And this energy, when gets disturbed, when this energy gets turbulent, we are having well equipped with those energies, those turbulence, that these turbulence can correct already turbulent health of a person, and we are to use them in a very, very utmost care. You cannot simply misuse your energy medicines. They are they are just like those substances which, if misused, are going to do much more harm than good. We should not be in the position to learn that let me give anything, our medicines do no harm. It's not that way. It's not that easy to understand. We are to feel that we are in a very, very responsible position. We are equipped with so many of energy medicines. We are to utilize them in a very, very correct manner. And if suppose I am not really in a position to use them, let us learn it. And where to learn it? This book of none of this. This is the book which can teach us how to use this energy medicine in a very, very correct way, in a very, very judicious manner. So I believe this very first aphorism, which is related to the understanding of the dynamic concept of cure, I think that everyone, are you now going into the understanding of the dynamic concept of the cure? And this dynamic concept of the cure, we have to be very, very careful. This reminds us that how careful we should be. So this is one very, very important point to be followed here. This is just an understanding of one aphorism only first. In the rest of the two aphorisms, Edmund is going to teach us further regarding the dynamic concept of the cure. So this is, as again and again I am telling in my previous lectures, in today's lecture, that this area, this voyage, this passage of this place, that is the understanding of vital force, that is the understanding of dynamic concepts of health, disease, and cure, a very, very turbulent journey. But I believe we have really passed more than two-thirds of this turbulent place. If we are through very, very simply from this, the rest of the afternoon is going to be simpler, simplest, and easiest. I believe so. I hope you all will agree with me. So for today, let us just pause here, because in fact, I'm not immediately going to the aphorism 17. That is a very, very important aphorism in respect of learning the operation of this cure. Is in fact learning of the dynamic concept of cure. It is equipped with the two footnotes, I think. So I believe, as I told you today, some small way of ironing a sentence, how to really make this complex sentence as a simple sentence to understand. Because when you say a complex sentence means you are trying to give the information of the dynamic process in a dynamic way. And that is the most easy way of doing conveying the exact verbatim method of presenting the things. But then, for understanding, first of all, we are to iron them in a very simple sentences, learn the meaning, again, connect them so that you can understand the dynamicity of the whole process in a complex sentence. So, for today, I think we should be pausing our learning here. And today, let us see. I think not much comment in the live chat. Only I'm seeing one comment by Dr. Gifty. She says, I remember, sir, you treated one patient in coma by applying medicine on nails, and then I treated my son just by smelling. What a wonderful power of homeopathic medicines. I definitely agree, and many of us, all of us will agree that these medicines, which work through the nervous system, they are the most powerful medicines. They're so quick. I've seen so many of the cases. I'm just breaking a very small news to all of you that though it is a little early, I'm just breaking this. For last some 2 months or maybe 2.5 months, I'm treating a case of, you can say, a kind of blood cancer of some 27 years old boy who was just being given 6 times bone marrow transplant, and every time it failed. And they did not go for the seventh time because even doctors, they did not recommend. Moreover, the doctor told that the total WBC count has gone to 10, which should be at least 4,000, some 3,000, or maybe say some 2,000. But then it did not compromise even to 1,000, rather it was only 10. When TLC was 10, they came to me. Platelet counts was also something like this, 500 or 600, like this. They came in this precarious conditions, telling me that this young chap, 27 years old, is going to die in next 1 or 2 weeks. This was the ultimate words by the treating doctor and the hospital. And that boy is under my treatment. Today, the biopsy report of bone marrow has come. Though the biopsy report, we get a reflection in the CBC and the peripheral film, but they were eager to do the bone marrow, and the bone marrow was now in a very, very healthy condition. Salute to the homeopathy and salute to my professor, my teacher, salute to my father who brought me into this field. It is such a pleasure to sharing with you all this very, very auspicious news about this patient, that homeopathy has given life, not me, it is the homeopathy, power of homeopathy, which has given the life to this very young chap. Just, just think what is the power of homeopathy. So I'm really very much amazed and very much convinced again and again and once more. And sharing with you is only to tell that whatever we are studying in this concept of dynamicity is not just a philosophy. It is a bedside experience. You also have so many of such bedside experiences. I have also so many. I shared with you today one very recent another experience, and it is something again giving me the conviction into the understanding of this dynamic concept of health and the dynamic concept of disease and dynamic concept of cure. So I must say, every one of you, that you all are very serious learning. But I believe that after really listening this case, you'll be rather more and more serious about it. So every one of you, I just tell that you all go into the serious but pleasurable study of the organelle. And then, if God give us that grace, we will be trying to study Pura, we will be trying to study some very important materia medica, so that we may complete the learning of practicing homeopathy at the bedside. Our goal should be learning the practice of homeopathy at the bedside. The very first tool to master is the organon of medicine. And I hope every one of you go in this very steady manner. We all will be really doing these cases as a routine. So we will be continuing this study. And some of your comments, Dr. Sharp says, salute to you also. Not really. Doctor is really not important. Is just an instrument. And be more as instrument. He will be rather much more useful. I will be rather much more useful. Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Sharp. Homeopathy, great science, no doubt about it. So far, we know very less, very little about it. And Vinita Goel says, great sir, such experiences encourage the whole faculty to work dynamically. Yes, the only purpose sharing it is this only. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Pooja, for your words. Congratulations. It is a congratulations to the fraternity, to the homeopathy, to every one of you. And I dedicate this success to my father. I owe this success to my teachers, especially my teacher, uh, Dr. Alim Khan. Thank you very much, every one of you. We catch up tomorrow and go further. And please, whatever I'm saying, I'm telling you, whatever I'm saying, it is just the glimpse. You collect those readable materials as I'm giving you the reference, and you also find those references, and you can convey such references to me also, so that we may enhance our knowledge, especially the knowledge, the dynamic knowledge, the understanding of dynamicity. It is going to teach us so much. Nowadays, I'm telling you, so much of work going into the dynamicity. We are not the only one. So many people are doing. Our benefit is Henman has given us a complete package of dynamicity. Others are doing work on dynamicity, but then they're half baked. Their works is half only. Either they're trying to learn diseases, or they're trying to learn the internal process of the operations of the vital force dynamically, but then they are not knowing how to know the medicines dynamically, because they don't trust the concept of Hahnemann regarding the dynamicity of the medicines. They don't trust even now. But then this is we are at the advantage side, that we know the dynamic concept of the disease, we know the dynamic concept of the cure, and for achieving cure, we have the dynamic medicines, means we have that information about the dynamic medicines. Only thing that we are to master them, we are to learn them. Learn and practice, learn and practice. This should be the motto. Thank you very much, everyone. Good day. Catch up tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.